True Music Podcast, Series 2, Episode number 2, doing Radiohead. The entire discography. Last episode we did their debut album, Pablo Honey. This time we're doing their second album, The Bends, which I actually have not heard this album. Been listening to, as I mentioned in the last episode, I've listened to a lot of their later stuff, and then kind of circled back around to Pablo Honey, so I had heard that before we did it for the episode, but I don't know anything about The Bends. Not a thing. So I'm very excited to see how they followed up their debut. Before we get started, though, bringing back a thing that I did in the original series, kind of vinyl updates, talking about any concerts that we've been to since the last episode. So I'll start off with a record I picked up. Very excited to grab this. Strapping Young Lad did a reissue of their kind of greatest hits album on vinyl. This is a bunch of tracks handpicked by the band themselves, going through their entire discography. Strapping Young Lad being the first band that Devin Townsend was in right after working with Steve Vai, and it was kind of his way to vent his frustrations with the music industry. So in the gatefold here, there's a bunch of notes on each of the tracks by each of the band members, so that's really cool. As for concerts, I went and checked out the Decibel Magazine tour, mostly because Cattle Decapitation was on the lineup, so always excited to see them. The rest of the lineup included Dark Funeral as the headliner, 200 Stab Wounds, and Black Braid. So a bunch of bands that I wasn't familiar with prior to this. Purely went to go see Cattle again because Travis Ryan is fucking, the dude's insane live. Yeah, Dark Funeral is kind of like a, I don't really know how to describe them. They've got like some black metal elements. They sound like Dimmu Borgir a little bit. They came out with like, you know, the face paint and like the dark armor and shit and Hail Satan, all that fun stuff. I wasn't really into them, actually. I didn't think that they were bad. It's just not my thing. 200 Stab Wounds is kind of like a death metal band, very similar to Cannibal Corpse, I feel. They were okay. I think out of all of the openers, aside from Cattle, Black Braid was my favorite. It's a one-man black metal project, Native American black metal, so that was really cool. They came out with like the whole like Native American outfits and stuff, and the dude had like a deer skull in the back that he'd like run back and do shit with. I don't know. It was good. They were great. Definitely gonna check out more of their stuff. But yeah, overall the show was really cool. If they're coming your way, I think. Actually, today is the last stop of the tour in LA. But
R.I.P.
R.I.P. It was an all right show. I'll say.
And 200 Stab Wounds might be an all-time top band name, dude. What a great name for a band.
Yeah, that's up there.
Yeah, it's good. Alrighty, so yeah, the Bends. I guess we can go ahead and jump right into it. 12 tracks here. Track number 1, Planet Telex.
So that one, it was much poppier than I think anything we heard last week, to be honest. But I guess my sticking points here are mostly just that it's really simple. Like, it's kind of repetitive with all of its lyrics. Everything just kind of repeats itself. But it is a pretty easy listen. There was also a really cool, like, pulsating sound at the end, where all of the just kind of pulsed rather than played like one consistent held out note. And I think it added a cool element to the song that wasn't just, you know, pop.
Yeah, I definitely felt a very heavy, like psychedelic kind of vibe. It had sort of a very like spacey, kind of wavy guitar, or what is it, like tuning. It was very psychedelic, like I said. It was I really liked this one. And his vocals are always very interesting because they always fluctuate between songs, because sometimes I feel like it's very easy for me to make out what he's saying, and then there's other times that it just sounds like there's no point in even looking or even trying to. I'm just going to look at the lyrics. But still, I'm still thinking this is interesting so far.
Oh boy. Okay. So looking at the Genius page, I'm glad that they're backing me up on this, because this sounds more like the Radiohead that I'm familiar with. In fact, the reasoning for that is they recorded this particular track before like the proper recording sessions for the album. So that's why it sounds the way it does. Apparently, it was recorded one night after they had been drinking heavily, and Tom decided to do his vocals while laying on the floor of the studio for some reason. So there's that. But yeah, this definitely sounds like something off of OK Computer, and again, like I said, Genius kind of backs me up on that kind of similar sound going on. OK Computer being the album that they followed this one up with. So, but yeah. Apparently, the working title for this originally was Planet Xerox, but obviously because of trademark, they had to change it. But yeah, this sounds cool. If it's wasn't recorded in the same session, I'm curious how the rest of the album is going to sound. So we will see. So track number 2 is the title track, The Bends.
All right, so I guess like I'm not super familiar with like Radiohead's progression, you know. But this song definitely had themes of like, you know, the pressures of celebrity, right? And I don't know, like it just feels kind of out of place from what I personally know about them. Like, you know, again, before sitting down to listen to all of these, like it was pretty much Creep and a couple other songs here and there, right? That like it seems strange to me that he's struggling with this idea of celebrity to have not lasted from the 90s. But the sound of the song was really good. I thought it was lyrically complex. I thought the music behind it was all really good. I it just it this the lyrics just kind of sit in a weird out of place way for me.
So I'm sure Mike will probably mention it or read it out more, but um, the bends, I think they're referring to the like decompression sickness that can be experienced by divers that like surface too quickly. Um, that's the only other place I've ever heard that term. So I guess I could kind of see it like in the sense that, you know, they've got something like weighing down on him, or it's like he's like kind of expanding, because essentially what the bends is, the nitrogen that is like soaked up into the bloodstream expands, and that's the decompressing of the gases, and it can cause some issues. So yeah, I thought the intro was very interesting. I thought that it almost felt like a wake up, like they thought that you were almost awake for the last bit, so you know, let's do a quick jump start. And I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, going back to some of the rock and grunge stuff from the last album, which I don't mind. But yeah, the lyrics here are supposed to be about knowing who your friends are when they come to your shows, but simplified that to just knowing who your friends are, kind of deal. I guess there's a sample at the beginning. Let's see, the quote is here: "The sound at the beginning comes from this counterwalling mayhem outside this hotel in the States. There was this guy training these 8-year-old kids who were parading up and down with all these different instruments. The guy had this little microphone on his sweater and was going, 'Yeah, keep it up, keep it up.' So I ran out and taped it." So that's the bit at the beginning there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you're right. The decompression sickness, he's using it as some kind of metaphor here that I'm too dumb to figure out. I'm sure it has something to do with like rapidly getting fame or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, track was all right. So we'll move on to number 3, High and Dry.
Flying on your motorcycle, watching all the ground.
So this had a super familiar cadence. I didn't recognize any of the words. I can't like honestly say that I've heard this before, but it sounded super familiar. So as it was playing, I actually looked up to see like, all right, is this in any movies or TV shows? And it's nothing I've ever seen. So I don't know where this came from, but it's still got like a poppy kind of vibe to it, but a little slowed down and mellow. But it sounds super familiar. The speed at which, you know, everything progresses just feels really familiar.
Yeah, it my first thought is there's I can't remember what song it was. Oh, I think it was a Coldplay song or something. There was a song that has a very similar chord progression, I think, in the chorus. Maybe it was the bridge. that was very, very similar to like a really popular Coldplay or like One Republic song. Um, but now I can't remember which one. But yeah, it definitely uses some of those, I think some of the more popular pop chord progressions.
Yeah, now that you mention it, there's something about it. I don't know. Um, Not really into like some of these like slower songs so much. I mean, not that I hated it. It's all right. Not bad. Uh, all right. Track number 4, Fake Plastic Trees.
That you bought from a rubber man.
So I definitely didn't care for the speed of this one. Like this was not a you know upbeat, fun listening experience, but it definitely fit with the theme of the rest of the album. There were trends within the self-titled song, The Bends, right? That like made you feel like he was feeling out of place, or that can't trust the things around him, like he's just kind of uncomfortable. And I think this kind of fit the same mold, just more describing his relationships with people rather than like just experiencing people. Like this one felt significantly more intimate, but on the same lines of feeling that kind of discomfort, which I thought was pretty neat. Lyrically, I thought this was really good.
So, so I thought that this one was I didn't mind that much. I honestly didn't mind that it was a little bit slower, but the I feel like you can definitely hear the anti-consumerism. There's I think the first chorus, not the first chorus, first verse mentions fake or plastic or rubber or something, which I'm sure he also referencing the fact that his relationships are probably fake as well. Um, I'm not sure if I'm right, but do you think that there was an organ in the background? Because it kind of sounded like it was an organ.
At the very tail end there, maybe.
Okay, I could have sworn I heard like a couple deep notes that I thought only could be like reached by an organ.
It didn't sound quite like a church organ though, like almost like an electronic organ.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah.
Yeah, you beat me to the mentioning the anti-consumerism stuff. That's all over here, and also the kind of feelings of being out of place, much like the last song. I know I said that I don't really care for some of their slow songs. Honestly, it's like hit or miss. Like some of them I really like, and then some of them are just kind of it's whatever. This is another one of those it's whatevers, but there was a bit near the end that I really liked. I think right before the last chorus or so, where it kind of picked up a little bit. That was really cool. Yeah, song was all right. Moving on to track number 5, Bones.
So I couldn't tell if this song was about like a fear of aging or it just like the effect that drugs are having on it. Like I really don't know what to make of this. It was nice that the speed picked back up. But it just kind of doesn't sit with the other songs. I found this one very odd, but I did like it a lot. It was enjoyable. It seemed kind of like a jump from the theme of the last few songs into this one.
Yeah, I really liked the bass line that just kind of started in the beginning. I thought that I think that's the chorus. There's those two lines that are gives a very interesting delivery for the chorus. Um, it's somewhat out of place, but maybe that's what he was going for. Um, Near the end there, I just had this thought that this song sounds like a song that you'd hear on Guitar Hero that you think this sounds like an easy song to play, and then you actually try playing it and it is insanely more complicated than you first thought. That's the kind of feeling I get from this song.
Yeah, from what I can tell, just glancing at the Genius page here, maybe it is about maybe a fear of getting older. I'm not exactly sure how old the members of the band here were. I think this album came out in 95, so I don't know. But yeah, it does seem kind of weird given the themes of the tracks beforehand. Just a weird thing to write a song about, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and I'm not even convinced that it's entirely about age too, because like then it's like, and I used to fly like Peter Pan is the line that like really just okay. Well, what's that have to do with aging? Like that's where it really starts to lose me. That like if he's trying to feel something in his bones, maybe it's drugs. You know, like I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Track number 6 is Nice Dream, but it's in parentheses for some reason. So,
So I like the way that this song sounds like the theme within it. The guitars definitely like drag you through like this dream sounding trance. And the fact that Tom doesn't enunciate a single syllable in this song, just feeling like you're dreaming. But really, it's just coming right back to the themes of like the fact that he can only dream about like healthy relationships. You know what I mean? But it's bringing us back to the rest of the album, which makes the last song feel even more out of place than it already did. But I think this is a real struggle like within himself now for his struggles within relationships. I think like it it really gives a sense of how self-aware he is.
I have to say that I think the title "Nice Dream" is the perfect title for the album cover. Like that's just what I imagine the album cover. I imagine that guy's having a pretty nice dream right now.
yeah, he's just sleeping.
Yeah. Um, I I loved the guitars just throughout the entire song, and I really loved that solo near the end. Definitely had a good for the title, very dreamy, like psychedelic, like overall feeling, guitar work. Yeah, it's very interesting. The lyrics, I mean, they're depressing in a different kind of way, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, title here is definitely very fitting. Lots of very lush kind of ambience here, dreamlike instrumentals. I completely forgot to go over kind of the background of the album before we started, but I guess halfway through is as good a time as any. So, following up Pablo Honey, it seemed like the band was feeling a lot of pressure by their success, and there was a lot of mounting expectations for them to kind of follow up the album that had Creep on it. So Tom York, after a bunch of tours, became ill, and they canceled their appearance at Reading Festival. And he told some media outlets that physically he's completely fucked and mentally he's had enough. There were threats from their label EMI that they had 6 months to get it sorted or they'd get dropped. I guess around the time experimental rock was kind of starting to get popular and had some potential, but they thought that the band was kind of developing pretty well. So after they finished Pablo Honey, Tom presented a demo of some new material they were working on with the working title The Benz, Benz, and they liked it. They thought that the material that he had presented was way better than anything that was on Pablo Honey. There was kind of some expectations for them to deliver some kind of follow-up to Creep, but Radiohead had basically disowned it and had no interest in... They weren't really thinking in terms of making hit singles kind of deal. So by this point, there was a lot of mounting pressure from the success of their first album and Creep blowing up, and yeah. That kind of comes across a little bit. Some of those earlier tracks make sense now, I think. All right, so track number 7, Just.
You do it to yourself, you do. That's why...
Ted, you're muted.
Motherfuck. This is probably one of my favorite ones that we've heard from either album. I thought it had some really great sounds. Everything felt mixed really well. It was upbeat, and you still kind of got that sense of like kind of sad, self-deprecating lyrics with a poppy, upbeat rock kind of vibe. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, my first thought was, well, hello, like punk, not punk, but like hello, grunge again. I decided to open up Genius, and one, you can actually hear him enunciate the words in this song. But the sound is very not poppy, but very upbeat. But the lyrics are still depressing sounding. Um, and it still has some of those really like kind of dreamy guitars in there that I also personally love. So yeah, this one was actually probably also one of my favorites.
Yeah, this was good. Again, more depression and self-loathing and isolation themes going on here, but make it upbeat, because why not? Apparently this was written about a narcissistic friend of Tom's that was pissing him off, and it developed musically out of a contest between him and guitarist Johnny Greenwood to see who could fit the most chords into a song. So yeah. Yeah, song's great. Really cool.
Yeah.
Track number 8, My Iron Lung.
All right. So I think the only way to be more overt with the song, especially as I'm looking at the lyrics now, is just a song that the only lyric is "fuck creep." Like it's so overt how much they hate this. And you said that like this was 2000 or 1995, right? So only like
Yep.
2 or 3 years after the first album came out, and they just already despise it. Just leave us alone about it. Like that's so quick to turn around and be jaded. This one made me laugh a lot, actually.
Um, yeah, now that I see that or hear that explanation, that makes sense. I see that now. This seemed like a slightly more complicated, more complex song that I had heard in the past couple songs. This also feels like this might have the most amount of like just straight lyrics. I feel like usually he doesn't have like the Radiohead songs don't have like a very long, like the songs aren't very long lyric wise. But this one actually felt like it had quite a lot to it. Um, and I also love the like almost kind of complete like switch up for the chorus that goes in for the chorus, comes, and then it just comes right back out, and it's like nothing happened. It's very, very interesting. Also, I could have sworn maybe I'm just hearing things, but I think it was like the second chorus. I thought I heard Tom's voice like almost like kind of maybe I don't know crack, but maybe like a slight like screech almost. And I was like, is that his voice like cracking or something?
I didn't notice that.
Missed it.
But yeah, this is the one track on the album that I was aware of and knew about before going into it. I just forgot about it when we started, and when it started, I'm like, oh yeah, it's this song. Yeah, this is the track where they dunk on Creep. Using an iron lung here as a metaphor for how it was keeping the band kind of afloat at the time, and also iron lungs being kind of constricting. It's a good metaphor. The song is really good. I do like what they were doing on the chorus there. I think some of the instrumentals were kind of meant to mimic or mock Creep a little bit. It kind of was a similar vibe kind of going on, I felt. Yeah, good song. Let's see. Track number 9, Bulletproof, I Wish I Was.
So this one sort of just feels like we're back to the same theme again. Looking inward, feeling inadequate, detached from human. Maybe I guess is the best way to put it. Like it's sad, it's slow. I not quite grungy or rock or pop. Like this doesn't sound like most of the rest of this album, but I don't know. It's really reflective. He's definitely very self aware about his fragility.
So I first thought that it like the very start of the intro, it just kind of gave me a very like kind of spacey feel. The the first image that came to my mind is Tom York just sitting on like a miniature rocket ship, just kind of like generally coasting through space, just strumming on an acoustic guitar. And then somewhere off in the distance, there's just like a meteor that has a theremin on it following him somewhere. Because this whole album, this whole song was just really spacey and like kind of psychedelic. But um, yeah, the lyrics are dark again, very depressing, and I I'm not sure. This may just be how Genius arranges the lyrics, and I know that obviously music is poetry, but it seems like Tom really does kind of create a poem, and then he almost focuses on making a poem first, then writing a song around it.
This is Tom Needs a Hug, the song number 30. That's all I have to say about that. All right. Track number 10, Black Star.
I get home from work and you're still standing in just.
So this one sounded a whole lot more like the rest of the album, but more complex, I guess. The layering I thought was really good. But this, I think the part that really stuck out to me is that not only does Tom need a hug, but the people that Tom keeps close to him also need hugs. Just a lot of hugs. It's interesting to me that like he can be so self-aware through the rest of the album and understand his own emotions, but it really seems that like there's a struggle when dealing with other people have depression, or at least I assume that based on all the lyrics that it's whatever partner or whoever he's speaking to has a depression.
Yeah, this one, my first thought was during the first sentence was I'd like Tom to point out to me how many syllables there should be in that first sentence. Because I think all I heard was I get home, and then all I could hear after that was it sounded like one word.
This whole song might as well have been one syllable.
Yeah. One of these days Radiohead will make a song where it is upbeat and positive, not just upbeat and depressing as shit. Everyone needs hugs. That's the sum of it. And for some reason, I feel like I've heard that chorus somewhere before. That chorus sounds very familiar. Like it's like a variation of it.
Yeah, this track was pretty cool. Instrumentally, I like this a lot. But yeah, you were pretty much on the nose there, Ted. It's basically about being in a relationship with someone that is suffering from some sort of mental illness and trying to deal with that, and then eventually leaving them and then succumbing to those exact same mental illnesses, essentially. I wish I could say that their discography gets happier from here, but it's just more depressing, unfortunately.
Yay.
There's maybe a few like upbeat, positive songs in there somewhere, I think. We'll see. Let's see what's next. Track number 11, Sulk.
You sit there and sit there.
There were a lot of really interesting sounds happening in this one, that all coming together like shouldn't have worked, but definitely did. The sonic experience of this song was very strange, in a positive way. I don't mean to, take anything away from the song. It was really good, but yeah, it went back to the grungy feel, and there was a lot of noise, a lot of things going on that all sounded different from each other, but worked as one cohesive piece. This was really unique.
Yeah, I thought this one really brought more like electronic parts like to the front, sort of a lot of sampling and that layering. Tom needs a hug, and someone needs to give him, I think, an energy drink, because I feel like he needs to open his mouth a little bit more when he sings. I wish I could understand some of his lyrics more.
Oh boy. Background on this one is actually really dark. This was written as a response to the Hungerford massacre that occurred in Hungerford, England on August 19th, 1987. 17 people, including the perpetrator, were killed in this massacre. Originally, the ending lyrics were "Just shoot your gun," but these were changed when the song was recorded in late 94 due to the death of Kurt Cobain still weighing heavily on people's minds, while the Hungerford killings weren't. Tom chose to change the lyrics so no one would think that song was about Kurt. Song is rarely heard live. They played it a couple times between 94 and 95, and then never again after that. So that's interesting.
Hmm.
All right, final track. Track number 12, Street Spirit, Fade Out.
All right, so I think this is a good ending to an album. Just doesn't necessarily fit with some of the other themes in the rest of this album. Um, I I really got the vibe that like it's supposed to feel depressing, but there's a weird, especially towards the end. Like I I guess it's like there's a sort of uplifting piece to it that like yeah, death would be the conclusion to everything. Stop worrying about it, just live life, right? Like there's something like weirdly uplifting despite how sad I think it's supposed to feel.
So I thought that the beginning definitely kind of came in with a very like folky kind of feel, and this was starting to feel like just the depressing end to a depressing album. But yeah, the little positive note at the end is well, slightly positive note is nice.
Yeah, I really liked this instrumentally. I liked the guitars a lot. The drums were pretty simple, but I thought it fitted pretty well with everything. I kind of half expected it to like explode into something grand at some point, but that never really happened. Themes on this are about as depressing as the rest of the album. Futility of life, pointlessness of existence, certainty of death, and a little bit of hope at the end. Apparently, at the end of the music video for this, Tom seems to kill himself. So do with that what you will. I thought it fitted as an ending for the album. It was good. I think the album overall, despite being like kind of really depressing, really solid overall, and definitely an improvement over the last album for sure. So where I don't know if it's like too early to rank what we think about this or not, but yeah, like I said, definitely above Pablo Honey for sure.
I agree. I think that this was a more cohesive sounding album. I thought that there was more complexities. I thought that like lyrically it all fit together. I think this was a more positive experience than Pablo Honey, as far as the whole album goes.
Yeah, not in any bad way, but Pablo Honey did have a very kind of sporadic, kind of bouncing back and forth kind of feel, and this one, depressing as it is, definitely at least has a unified kind of flow. Um, so yeah, I think I'd probably put this one above Pablo Honey as well for right now.
All right. So next week we're doing OK Computer, which is regarded as one of the best rock records ever made. So I'm very excited to see what you guys think of that one. And the album that they followed OK Computer with, OK Computer with, Kid A, is also regarded as one of the best rock albums ever made. So we're about to have a pretty interesting, I'd say, 3-album run after this, because I think Amnesiac is also pretty solid, which is the album that follows Kid A. So next few episodes are going to be very interesting. Curious to see what you guys think of those. But yeah, that's about it. I got nothing else, so I guess we can wrap up here. Thanks for watching. As always, we'll see you in the next one.